Hi friends, so glad you're back to join me at our See the Light, Yes You Can Draw Club. This is club meeting number 30 and I'm Pat Nepley, your master artist. I'm with you through all of these club meetings and I hope you're bringing a friend along to learn how to draw because yes, you can draw. It just takes some time and some practice. So we've been talking about perspective in this past unit and how important it is to get it just right when you're looking at something from a different point of view. Remember, we took a square and made it a cube, and we learned about 1- and 2-point perspective, that's linear perspective, and we also learned about aerial perspective when something is really far away and you're trying to create depth. Well, we're going to continue a little bit with perspective today, but with something that's very familiar to you, and that's the circle. So let's review what you're going to need for today's club meeting. You're going to need 2 pieces of white paper and 1 piece of black paper. Black construction paper is fine, whatever size you have. A standard pencil, a grade eraser, a couple of small round objects, just stuff that you have around the house. Coins are always great, lids, things like that. A ruler and a set of pastels. If you don't have a set of chalk pastels, you can use crayons, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to talk about circles today. Remember, circle is a standard shape. But a shape maybe you're not quite familiar with is the ellipse. And the ellipse is an important shape in drawing because the ellipse is the shape that you draw when you're seeing a circle in perspective. Okay, let me just show you with this mug. It'll be a little easier. Now you know that the top of this mug is a circle. But if I were to place this mug on the table, when you're trying to draw it, it's no longer a circle, it's an ellipse. It's a little hard to explain. If I were looking down at the mug, I would see this, and then maybe I'd see the handle. That's looking down. Maybe I'd see the bottom of the mug. But most times you don't draw a mug that way. You draw a mug like this. And so the circular opening of the mug is now an ellipse. And that's why it's an important shape for you to know as an artist, because you're seeing a circle in perspective. So when you're trying to do a circle correctly, there's certain rules about a circle. And so let's go over what those rules are. Drawing a circle is hard, you know that, we've talked about that before. But if I were to draw a circle and divide it into 4 equal parts, each of these parts is actually the same. Here, I'll show you with this piece of paper. If this is 1/4 of the circle, you know you have a circle that's correct if all 4 are the same. Well, the same principle applies to an ellipse. An ellipse is accurate if divided into 4s, all 4 are the same, they're just oriented a different way. Now, how do you know you're getting the right ellipse for your circle? Because some could be really wide if you're looking into whatever your circle is at a higher angle. But what if the mug is closer to eye level? You might get a very narrow ellipse. Do you remember when we did our cube and we learned that you only see the top of a cube if you're looking at it where it's below eye level? You wouldn't see the top of your cube if it's right at eye level. And you'll see the bottom of the cube if it's above eye level. Same thing applies with the ellipse. The narrower the ellipse, the closer that circle is to eye level. So an ellipse like this is seeing a circle with only a slight change in eye level. Here's a better way to do it. Look at this ring. You can do it at home if you have a frisbee or a paper plate. When you're looking at it like this, you can see it's a perfect circle. But as I slowly change the angle, if you were to squint, it would be an ellipse. And that's what a circle is seen in perspective. Probably a great way to show you is with some drawings. So take a look at this famous painting by the artist Paul Cézanne. Now, we've seen a couple of his artworks before. He does a lot of still lifes, and this particular still life, you'll notice there's a coffee cup, a saucer, and a fruit plate that are drawn as ellipses, although imperfect. Now you need to learn how to draw circles in proper perspective to make it look real. Okay, here's another painting by one of my favorite artists, the American artist Wayne Thiebaud. This particular painting is called Cake Window. Of course, anything that Wayne Thiebaud does makes me hungry. He likes to do repeating patterns of repeating objects. Notice all of the ellipses in this painting, the cakes, the cake plates, the shadows. If Thiebaud had not done proper ellipses, it would not look right. This is a great colored drawing. So you need to practice making ellipses. There's no way to get around it. You simply have to practice, just like learning to make a circle. Now, you can trace circles, but if you get some practice making circles on your own, it'll be much better for you. So how do you start? Well, we're going to take a ruler, and you're going to draw 2 lines that go across, and these will be our guide marks. Now, I'm going to draw a little bit darker, but you keep yours lighter. Now, these guide marks are for the top and the bottom of our circle and ellipse. If I were to draw a circle right here to the left, now you're going to have to take your time, and you really only know if it looks exactly right if you're able to turn your paper and it still looks right from every angle. Do you remember that? I can't really turn my paper when it's on my easel, but I can make a circle freehand, and that takes a lot of practice. Now, once you get a circle freehand, next to it, I want you to practice doing an ellipse. So the same top and the same bottom, but you're going to squeeze this so it's narrower. Now be careful, friends. Don't make it a football shape. An ellipse does not have any points. The ends are all beautifully rounded and flow together. So you need to practice making an ellipse right next to your circle. Now what I want you to do is keep on going. Make another ellipse, and it's narrower, almost like a coin is turning. And then narrower, and narrower. And by doing these practice strips where a circle becomes an ellipse is the only way you're going to get really good at using the ellipse as a circle drawn in perspective in your drawings. Anytime you were to do, say, a kitchen table scene, you want to make sure the plate, the cup, the bowl is seen in proper perspective. So practice going from a circle to a narrow ellipse across your page. We're actually going to do a great project today, my friends, that uses circles and ellipses and some of the principles we talked about in some earlier club meetings. And I can't wait to get started with you. And it's something you're probably very familiar with, and that's the solar system. All of the wonderful things that God made in the heavens, we've learned so much about over all these many years, and I know we're going to continue to learn more about it. And all it does is make me more amazed at the Creator God. We know that all the planets in our solar system are spheres, which would be drawn as a circle. We also know that they all go around the sun in something called an orbit, and that just means a pathway. But every pathway, every orbit, is an ellipse. And so when we're showing our solar system for our drawing today, we're going to be doing circles and ellipses and using some principles of value that we learned a long time ago when we were shading a sphere. But we're always going to start at the beginning, and that would be with the sun. That's where God started too, when He made the day and the night. He started with the sun. So that's why you have these small objects here. We're going to start with the sun. Now, even though the sun is the largest star in our solar system, you're not going to make it the largest thing on your page. And that's because Jupiter is a very large planet, and we're trying to show how big outer space is. So I would say something that's kind of medium size right in your center. Now, friends, because you're working on your black paper, you're going to be using pencil, but that doesn't show up on the camera, so I'm going to be using a white pencil. You can use your regular pencil, and that'll work just fine. So we start in the center with the sun. Now we're just going to sketch things in because we're going to come back with our pastels, okay? You know, there's a great Bible verse about the sun. I want to share it with you. God is the creator. So amazing. And this verse is also from Psalms. You know, it's one of my favorite books. Psalm 19:4 says, "Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens he has pitched a tent for the sun." King David had such a way with words. God pitched a tent for the sun, meaning he gave a special place in the universe just for the sun. And we know that it's perfectly placed with Earth so that we have wonderful weather and life can exist on this planet. It's incredible. So now that we have our sun, what we're going to do is do all of the elliptical orbits around the sun. Now, an ellipse that's closest to the sun, we're going to do a very narrow ellipse. But you're not going to see the back of that ellipse. It's behind the sun. You're just going to see the front. You're doing this with a regular pencil. I'm using a white pencil. Now we need to make an ellipse that's bigger than this center one. We're going to gradually go outside here to create bigger ellipses with more and more space between them. So now the next ellipse is bigger. Keep going, friends. Now do another ellipse. And another. And another. Now you'll notice I'm going to get off the page pretty soon, and that's okay. Keep going with your ellipses even if they go off the page. Like that. Now you can go back with your pencil and fix an ellipse that you don't like the shape of it or how it travels. Now, after we have all of our orbits, it's important to remember maybe what you've learned in science. Do you know what all the planets are? Do you know what's closest to the sun? It's great to make things accurate. So if you know that Mercury is closest to the sun, then name your planet and put it in there. But because we know that Mercury is smaller than Earth, and we know that the sun is pretty large and that's pretty close, it's actually going to be pretty tiny, and it's going to be right on that orbit. So that means that the circle you draw for that planet will go right on the orbit so that the orbit line, or the ellipse, crosses right over. Now, not all the planets line up like soldiers. It might on some diagram you have in a classroom, but we know that they're at different spots on their orbits at any time. After Mercury is Venus. So let's put Venus here, slightly larger. Do you know what the third planet from the sun is? I hope you do. It's our planet, Earth. So let's put the Earth a little bit larger, right on that orbit, and let's make our little moon right there. Mercury, Venus, Earth. The next orbit would be Mars. So let's put Mars about here. Mars is about the same size as Earth. Now, friends, you'll notice that I'm trying to balance my composition. Do you remember last time we talked about balance? Which is why I wouldn't have all the planets in one section. I'm spreading them out. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. And the next one is our largest planet. If you're not sure and you want to do a circle that's larger, you can always trace something. But Jupiter is the largest planet. And so you want to make sure, since it's now a much further orbit away from the sun, that it's fairly large. So I'm going to make a circle here to be Jupiter. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Saturn is an interesting planet, and it's perfect for today. Now, Saturn is smaller than Jupiter, but the cool thing about Saturn is it has rings around it. So, let me show you. Pretend that this is Saturn. And these would be like the rings of gas that go around Saturn. Now, if you were looking at it this way, you would have a circle and a circle. But notice if I tip the circle, the rings now become an ellipse. So even though they are round, because they go around a spherical object, we would see it like this. And so that's how we're going to draw it, another set of ellipses. So now that I have the circle representing Saturn, I want to put in the gas rings that are ellipses. But they're going to be at a different angle than our orbits. So around Saturn, you're going to do two sets of ellipses. One is the inner part of the ring, and because one side is on the other side of the planet, you wouldn't see it. And then do another ellipse, like this, to show the outer part of the ring. Just like our example with our orange ball and our orange ring. So we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and we probably have room in this last orbit for Uranus. Let's see, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. It would have to be on a new orbit, so it could either be up here or here. I think I'll put it here. And it would keep going. Now we have all of our planets and we have our orbits. Now it's time to do some really fun stuff. Get your pastels, but remember, before you work with pastels, you want to make sure you're in clothing that's okay to work with pastels. So I have my art shirt that I'm going to put on. If you have long sleeves, push them up, roll them up so they're not in the way. If you have on clothes that it's okay to get pastel on, that's fine. Or pause and change into a shirt. So now I'm going to work with pastels that show up beautifully on this black background. And we're going to start, of course, with our sun. Now the sun, we know, is a fiery ball. So it won't be a perfectly flat circle. It'll have shooting flame coming off of it. But we do know it's going to be warm colors, and our warm colors are yellow, orange, and red. Now I'm going to go right over that orbit line because it's really just an invisible pathway. And I'm going to blend. And it's okay if it's not a perfect circle because, like I said, there's stuff that shoots off the sun. It's beautiful. Whatever you don't like, your great eraser should be able to erase the pastel. Now, we know that the sun is a big fiery ball of light. There's no shade or shadow in there. But with the planets, that's a different story. It doesn't matter to me what color you make your planets, except Earth. We know what Earth looks like. It's a blue ball with land on it. So that will do like Earth looks like. But we're not really sure about the rest. So for this first planet, I'm just going to make a nice light green. Now here's the thing we're going to do, which is so cool. Because the planet is facing the sun, only the side of the planet towards the sun will be in light. The other side is in shadow. Do you remember we learned about value, and especially shading a sphere? Whatever's away from the light source is darker. So grab your black pastel, and you're going to make that half of the planet dark. And you're going to keep on going with all of your planets. So let's say we'll make this color for Venus. This is what's so fun about art. You can make it what you want. You are the artist. So once I have that, I'm going to take my eraser, get rid of my extra pastel, and using my black pastel, or dark gray, the side of the sphere that is away from the sun is in shadow. Like that. Earth, of course, that's our favorite. That's our wonderful planet that God made for us to live on. And that's mostly blue. So color the whole thing blue. Use the side of your pastel just lightly. Get that whole circle shape. And then we're going to go back in with some darker green to make kind of some land-looking shapes, like the continents. And then, my friends, we need our black pastel so that the side that is away from the sun is in shadow. And you can do this by just putting it in lightly, about half of that circle, and then just dabbing it with your finger. The side that's facing the sun gets sunlight, so that's the side of the earth that is in day, and this side that is away from the sun is in night. So you're just going to keep on going. Mars is a rocky red planet, they say. So get one of your red pastels. Make your round shape. The side that's facing the sun is lighter. The side that is away from the sun is in shadow. So I'll add my black. You don't want the black to be so heavy that it creates a big stripe. You want to blend it in, like that. Now, Jupiter is really interesting. It's actually a striped planet. Isn't that cool? And it's known for having a giant red spot. So here's where you get to have some fun with your pastels. Take a lighter color. You want to work light to dark. And do most of Jupiter in your pastel lighter color. Blend that in. And then you're going to go back and you're going to create rounded stripes. Let's make them at kind of an angle like this. I'm going to put in some orangey looking stripes like that. Maybe some blue. Like this. Maybe some green, but I'm going to save my red because there's a big red spot on Jupiter. That's what it's known for. So I'm going to kind of blend in these stripes. We don't know why Jupiter's striped. And since Jupiter has an oval shape that's red, a big spot on Jupiter, I'll make that kind of towards the bottom of my circle. So you do that too. But again, we have to go back to our rule that since it's whatever's facing the sun is in light, whatever's away from it is in shadow, I take my black pastel and I'm going to go over it with black because it's darker as I get to the edge. And then I'm going to blend since that side of the planet is away from the sun. Now we have our friend Saturn that has the rings using both circles and ellipses that we've learned today. I'm not quite sure what color Saturn is. So using our idea of balance, I see I have a bunch of warm colors. I have a cool color over here. So let's go with another cool color and I'll use purple. Now it's hard sometimes for darker colors like this dark purple to show up on the black paper. It's a beautiful vivid color. So I'm going to do kind of what I call the opposite trick. Remember we said that anything that's closest or facing the planet is going to be lighter. And anything that's away will be darker. Well, this is fairly dark already. So take your white pastel and instead of shading the side that's in shadow with black, I'm simply going to take the side that's closest to the sun and make this lighter purple by adding white. And I still get the effect that the side that's away from the sun is darker. And as far as the rings, we just know that it's a ring of gas and rocks that rotates around Saturn. So you can make that whatever you want. I'm going to make it a light peach color. So fill in your ellipse that represents the rings of Saturn with whatever color pastel you like in your ellipse shape. Okay, this is just a really quick study, my friends, where you get to see ellipses and circles together. You can keep on going by coloring in your planets or doing something that I love to do and making stars. Just take your white pastel or a white colored pencil and just go all over your universe by making small dots to represent the stars. Boy, God made us an amazing universe to enjoy, didn't He? I love looking up at the stars when I'm home at night. And I love thinking of the grandeur and goodness of God and how big and powerful and great He is. So I hope when you look up at the heavens, you remember who made that great universe just for us to enjoy. Well, I hope you've had fun learning about circles and ellipses today and that you'll join me next time. But for today, we're out of time. I hope to see you next time, friends.